Ian, when people look back on your long history, they look at 35 years of history in the mining resources industry, and at the same time, they also look at a very long history in the gold mining industry. And here you are, you're joining a company that produces, let me check it, silica and anthracite. Why the change of heart?
It's not really a change of heart, Godfrey. It's perhaps the next step in what has been for me a fantastically interesting career. And yes, I had the majority of my career associated with precious metals, but throughout that period, there was also exposure to other commodities. And obviously the last couple of years I've been associated with coal, being at Anglo coal. I've been at Petmin as a non-exec director for 3 years. So it was a natural evolution, I guess, to move from being a non-exec to being the chairman of the company as well.
Yeah, but you're not just coming in as a chairman, you're coming in as an executive chairman. And I guess for investors and people who watch, that suggests that you're coming in with power and possibly also with perhaps the expectation that you're coming with a vision to make Petmin perhaps take it from where it is right now.
Look, I mean, I think it's fair to say that in the last 6 years, Petmin has grown from a very small 24 million rand cash shell to a company today with a market cap of 1.4 billion. That's a very impressive growth over 6 years. I think the challenge now is to build on that impressive platform and to take it further. And what we want to do over the next sort of 5 years or so is we want to take it into becoming a high quality, mid-tier producer of several commodities, but from a South African base, and then initially moving into the Southern African region, and then possibly ultimately on a much broader global scale. So yes, we've got some very bold ambitions.
Now, when of course one remembers your gold background, which I just mentioned now, people inevitably will begin talking about perhaps a move into gold for Petmin. Is that possible? Is that on the cards?
I don't think so for Petmin specifically, but because we're really going to be concentrating more on what I would call infrastructure commodities. Okay. But I do have an association with another company that is purely gold focused.
So when you say infrastructure type commodities, what are we talking about here? Are we talking about your iron ores and these other commodities that are fueling the growth of the likes of China?
Exactly right. We're talking iron, we're talking manganese, we're talking copper, anything to do with the building of infrastructure, because certainly it's our belief that for the next, I guess comfortably, 5 to 10 years, the demand for infrastructure commodities is going to be very strong, and we'd like to fill that role.
Yeah. When you were appointed chairman designate, one of the things you said was that you were looking at growing the company organically as well as through acquisitions. What are we talking about here, and where are we talking about this? Is this happening in South Africa? Are you looking beyond the South African borders?
Well, I think the very interesting factor, one of the main attractions to me of joining Petmin, it wasn't so much what we would like it to become, but off the base that we currently have, our silica mine as well as our anthracite mine, both of these operations have the potential to grow substantially in size. Also, we believe that the market for that product is there. So the organic growth comes from the two existing operations as well. We have the Verimo magnetite project in the Eastern Transvaal, and that is clearly one of the first steps that we'll be taking into the ferrous sector as well.
And in terms of acquisitions?
Well, we're going through a very sort of rigid process of looking at several opportunities. I think at the last count, the guys had evaluated up to 70 different opportunities. The challenge now is to narrow those down and to look at those that we feel genuinely add value, and where we believe that we can bring something to the party. But all of them are going to be more regionally focused as well as locally focused.
Are we talking Southern Africa at the beginning at least?
Yes, very much so. I think the logical move for us is to take the experience that we've gained in South Africa, grow it more here in South Africa, and then translate that experience into Southern Africa as a whole.
Are there any specific countries in Southern Africa that you're looking at? I guess, with all the talk about the recovery in Zimbabwe, and Zimbabwe being a mining country, a lot of people would be thinking perhaps, could that be one of the targets that you're looking at?
Not in the short term.
Not in the short term.
No.
It's a difficult trading environment there, isn't it?
It's,
you want to keep out for now.
I think that there are other countries within Southern Africa which at the moment probably offer better opportunities for a small company like ourselves.
Now, you're joining a company that appears to be in a good space in terms of its operations. The last results that we saw, and these results came in just on the 1st of March, we saw normalized HEPS from continuing operations up 10% and the operating margin increasing from 19% to 30%. What are your immediate targets in joining when you become executive chairman in July?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, I think the reason why the guys have grown the company in terms of value so much is that they're very focused on what I consider are the real building bricks of running a good business. And that is, firstly, making sure that you've got a good resource base. Then secondly, making sure that you operate it effectively, safely, productively and cost effectively. And there's been massive attention to the working costs in the business. And that's translated through to the numbers that you just quoted. So we're looking at that. Also, I think we've got good credit lines. We're by no stretch of the imagination over-geared. So in terms of in the short term, it's making sure that how do we best apply the cash pile that we've got. You know, we're close on, as I speak today, close on 200 million rand in the kitty, and that we can use so we can fund all our internal projects. So it's a company with low gearing, and I think that is something that I want to make sure that we continue with.